Greetings. Hi everyone, how's it going? Welcome to this video. Today I'm going to be taking an in-depth dive into the lyrics to the song Exile by Taylor Swift, featuring Bon Iver off of her newest album called Folklore that she casually dropped just without telling anyone, like at all. I'm going to be going through all of the songs on this album one by one. We're going to be doing a separate video on the theories, like the love triangle theory, and a separate video just on what folklore means and how the album exists as a cohesive entity. There's definitely a lot of Taylor Swift content coming, so definitely subscribe if you're interested. If you ever have any requests for songs you want me to do of any artist, go ahead and leave them down below. Make sure to like this video if you enjoy it and subscribe if you haven't already. I tend to concentrate on diction, which is word choice, and connotation, which can be thought of as like the vibes or the emotions that the words elicit. And as a quick disclaimer, music is really subjective. That's why it's such a beautiful thing. So everything presented in this video is my own personal opinion. I always encourage you all to comment down below what your thoughts are, whether you agree with me or whether you have a completely different interpretation. I love the fact that this is a duet. They're not having like a dialogue or a conversation in real time. It's like a back and forth in their mind. So we're getting an insight into his thoughts, and then we're getting insight into her thoughts and how they overlap, but they don't overlap like this. They overlap like this because she says some different things and he says some different things. Bon Iver is singing in like a very lower register, which I didn't know he could do that, but his lower voice definitely pairs well with Taylor's voice. That's very sweet and smooth. This is a really good song. This is a really wonderful album. Like, I don't have anything bad to say about it. A lot of people are comparing this song to the duet she had on her album Red with Gary Lightbody of the band Snow Patrol. It's a very beautiful duet. I get in my feels when I listen to it. This duet is kind of reminiscent of that, although I feel like it's a little bit more mature in the songwriting. This is definitely a fall vibes album, especially when you have Bon Iver on a song. Like, I literally need like a cup of coffee, and it needs to be gloomy outside, and I need to be wearing a sweater, and I need to be listening to whatever I'm listening to on vinyl. Fall is coming up. I definitely know what album I'm gonna be listening to on repeat. It's this one. If I'm ever looking down, it's because I have my iPad. It's where I have my lyrics and my notes. Let's go and get started. First, let's talk about the title of the song. The song is called Exile, kind of fitting to release it in a global pandemic, but also let's talk about it in the context of just not a pandemic. When someone is exiled from somewhere, they're like banished or banned from that place. They're kind of like kicked out. Someone is usually exiled from a country. I think in The Lion King 2, where there's like Kovu, who like is like such a cute lion. Is that weird? He's like super cute. Anyways, I like loved Kovu. I think like a lion got exiled or something. I don't know. I just associate the word exiled with The Lion King 2. Simba's, what's it called? Simba's Pride. Please comment down below if there's a reason for me connecting those two things. I don't know. So when I looked up the word exile, it's essentially what I said, getting kicked out of a country, but it's from your native country. So it's your homeland. The song title is showing us that someone is getting kicked out essentially from what they considered to be their home base. When you're kicked out somewhere and you're exiled somewhere, it's in an unfamiliar place and you're probably going to be in isolation. There's loneliness, there's probably a little bit of fear, and it's just a very solitary, isolated thing. It's a very dark and somber word. Verse 1. This is sung by Bon Iver. His real name is Justin Vernon. Hashtag fun fact. I can see you standing, honey, with his arms around your body, laughing, but the joke's not funny at all. And it took you 5 whole minutes to pack us up and leave me with it, holding all this love out here in the hall. The first line says, I can see you standing. I don't think he's literally seeing her. I think he's seeing her in his mind, or perhaps he saw them together one time and that image is just like stuck in his mind. He's calling her honey. This can be just because he's not over his feelings for her, or you can read it as being in an ironic tone, not in a sweet tone, but in just kind of like a honey is sweet, but maybe the way that he's thinking about this and the way the word honey is said by him is bitter. Laughing, but the joke's not funny at all. I'm not saying the song is autobiographical, but I'm just gonna say Bon Iver and Taylor just so we know who we're talking about. The image here is that Taylor is in the arms of her new lover. And she's laughing because her new lover told her a joke. Bon Iver is like, that joke is literally not funny. But also, this whole thing that's happening, him getting exiled, is like a joke. Like, is this real? This is my homeland, my native land. It's where I grew up and became a person. This is like ridiculous that I'm not there. The joke's not funny at all. You can say just kidding now. Ashton Kutcher can come out and say like, this is punked. You've been punked. The joke's not funny at all. There's two ways you can take that. And I kind of lean more towards just this whole thing is a joke. Like what? I can't believe you're with another person. It took you 5 whole minutes to pack us up and leave me with it. 5 whole minutes. The word whole is very significant. Ironic that he uses the word whole because 5 minutes is a very short time period. So it's like 5 whole minutes. Wow. All of our relationship, you packed up like that. It's very bitter. You had something of substance and value and she packed it up very, very quickly and left. If we're thinking in the context of an exile, this is like his homeland, not just a house, but a literal country with like a government and a currency and just like stuff. She was able to pack it all up in 5 minutes. That makes you question, like, was there any substance here? Did you even love me? It makes you think. And maybe when you're in exile, it's not the best thing to do. Just like be alone with your thoughts. To pack us up and leave me with it. So let's look at the words here. The word us, she packed them up. She packed the relationship up. The word me is referring to Bon Iver, left me with it. So she packed up all of their life together, but he's the one left with, I'm gonna say, the baggage. It looks like she moved on. She has a new lover, but he's the one that's left with like the baggage or like whatever she didn't want from the move, but also the emotional baggage. And he's also in exile, so he's alone with his thoughts. His thoughts are his only company, and his thoughts probably aren't very positive or cozy or cute at the moment. I don't blame him. This sounds very intense. Holding all this love out here in the hall. He acknowledges that they had love together. Even at the end of it, there still was love because he's holding the love outside, right? So for him, the love didn't run out. There was still love present in this relationship, but she wanted to end it. She packed up everything, gave it to him, including the love, and he's still holding on to the love, meaning he's still not over this. He still has love for her. Standing out there in the hall with the love. Chorus. This is still Bon Iver. I think I've seen this film before and I didn't like the ending. You're not my homeland anymore. So what am I defending now? You were my town. Now I'm in exile. Seeing you out. I think I've seen this film before. I love when Taylor does this, when she starts something the way she ends it. She did this in Cornelia Street. She did this in Begin Again. She did this on her diary entries in her deluxe edition Lover album. Yes, she does this a lot and I really love it. It's a full circle moment. The first and last line of this chorus are the same. I think I've seen this film before. As I always state in all of my videos, repetition signifies significance. He says he's seen this film before, he didn't like the ending. He has experienced something like this before. He is seeing the end before it begins. Oh, that lyric sounds familiar. I can see the end as it begins. Wildest Dreams by Taylor Swift. I analyzed that song very in depth. I will leave a link below and above. So he says he knows what's coming. He knows the pain ahead. Saying that you've seen this film and you didn't like the ending, it's kind of softening it a little bit because you're removing yourself from the situation. You're saying, oh, I've seen this film before. And instead of saying, I know what's gonna happen and I'm gonna be in a world of pain, you're kind of viewing your own situation through a third-party perspective. So it's kind of lessening the like strike a little bit. That's my opinion. It's also just kind of like an eloquent way to state that you're going to be hurting very badly for an extended period of time. Even though he knows the ending, there's nothing he can do to stop it. You're not my homeland anymore. The word homeland, that diction, it goes with the title of the song, Exile. She's not his homeland anymore. She was his whole country. Isn't that wild? This kind of reminds me of King of My Heart, another song that I analyzed that I will link for you guys. And I talked about how their love was so pure and vast and expansive, just palpable, that they were able to create the entirety of a kingdom within their room. That kind of reminds me of that. She was his whole country and his native country, his homeland. So he doesn't have a homeland anymore. He doesn't have a home. He has nothing to defend. He has no purpose right now. You were my town. So she was not only his country, but also his town. A town is smaller, it's cuter, it's cozier. She was all of those things to him. She was an expansive, beautiful thing, but also a small, intimate, cozy place as well. What she was to him was dynamic, and she fulfilled a lot of needs for him. That's how I'm interpreting that. Now I'm in exile, seeing you out. I think I've seen this film before. This is just very sad. He's alone now. He's just reiterating that I know what this is. I think I've seen this film before. And the word think is kind of heartbreaking because he's not saying I've seen it before. He's like, I think I've seen this film before. The word think, the connotation is something that's not 100% certain. So I feel like he's saying that because he wants there to be a sliver of a possibility that the ending is going to be different than he anticipates. An act of self-preservation, if you will. Now it's Taylor. I can see you staring, honey, like he's just your understudy, like you get your knuckles bloody for me. Second, third, and 100th chances, balancing on breaking branches. I love alliterations. Those eyes add insult to injury. So now we're getting it from her perspective. What he was talking about at the beginning of the song was a memory he had of seeing them in each other's arms. While that was happening, now we're getting Taylor's side. Again, they're characters, not autobiographical. Taylor says, I can see you staring, honey, like he's just your understudies. He's looking at them like the new guy is just not up to her standards. He's not good enough for her. He's the understudy. It's like Bon Iver is out sick and this guy's trying to take over, but he doesn't know the lines, he doesn't have the costume, and he's not able to project his voice on stage. He's not the real deal. Bon Iver knows that he is the real deal. He is the one that can defend that homeland and protect it and love it, etc. And like get it Starbucks, and like etc. I don't know. Never mind. Like you'd get your knuckles bloody for me. He's ready to fight. He is a one-man army and he is ready to defend his homeland, okay? He still is in love with her. And Taylor recognizes this. Second, third, and 100th chances. This is really significant. It's going from the second chance to a third chance all the way to 100 chances. This is showing that Taylor really did try to make it work. She gave chance after chance, and in her opinion, it just wasn't worth it anymore. There's only so many chances you can give before you have to, you know, analyze all of the experiences and realize it's time to move on if nothing is changing for you. Balancing on breaking branches. This is an alliteration, which I just love alliterations. That's when there's words beginning with the same letter repeated after one another. I just enjoy alliterations, so just pointing that out. I've talked a lot in my videos about how relationships need to be built on a stable foundation. It looks like this one, I don't know if it was built on a stable foundation earlier, but towards the end of that relationship, they were trying to balance the entirety of their relationship on branches, which are very thin and not strong at all. Branches are very flimsy and they were breaking. They're not able to hold it up anymore. And their relationship seemed to be very involved and serious and have depth because it was a literal country. So they were trying to balance a country on branches. I don't know. It's not something that's sustainable or safe either. Those eyes add insult to injury. The word injury signifies to me that Taylor has been hurt in this relationship. She's the one giving the chances, which means she was the one that was wronged. Do you know what I mean? Like if someone does something to you, you, the victim, the one that's hurt, gives the other chances. So she's the one that's been hurt and, you know, she's already injured, and the way he's looking at her like she's doing this on purpose make the pain worse because she feels like she's not at fault here. She's the one giving out the chances, right? And the way he's looking at her, it's like I feel like he's probably looking at her like he betrayed her, right? It's like she committed treason, but to her, in her mind, she didn't. She's already in pain. She tried her hardest. She gave out the chances, and the way that he is looking at her now, it just makes the pain worse. Next verse. This is Taylor singing. I think I've seen this film before, and I didn't like the ending. I'm not your problem anymore. So who am I offending now? You were my crown, now I'm in exile, seeing you out. I think I've seen this film before, so I'm leaving out the side door. Again, she's seen this film before. She didn't like the ending either. They probably had a lot of movie nights. In all seriousness, she also knows what's coming. She knows there's going to be pain and hardship just due to the fallout from this relationship. There's nothing they can do about it. It's already set in motion, and it just wasn't working. She's not his problem anymore. Let's look at the word problem. When a person feels like a problem, they feel belittled a little bit, and it's a little bit dehumanizing just to feel like you're causing pain on someone. You kind of feel like you are a nuisance. So the connotation of the word problem is very belittling in my opinion. So someone who feels like they're a problem doesn't want to stay in that dynamic. Who am I offending now? Bon Iver was the one defending the homeland. He's the one-man army, and she felt like she was offending him. Again, just like she was bothering him or was a nuisance or just doing things to make him not happy. You were my crown. So she worshipped him. She respected him. He was her king. King of my heart.mp3. But now she's in exile as well. So she's in her own version of an exile. She might be with a new person, but she has her own version of an exile that she's experiencing because they shared a homeland together. I guess neither of them are living in that homeland anymore because she's in her own exile as well. There's repetition of the line, I think I've seen this film before. Instead of saying she doesn't like the ending, she says, so I'm leaving out the side door. This is really important. They have both seen this film before. They both know what's gonna happen. He didn't like the ending. He is writing out this movie. He's not leaving the movie theater. But Taylor knows what's coming. She knows the relationship is not working, so she's leaving out the side door. She's like, I know the hurt that's coming. I see these branches breaking. I hear it. I see it. This is gonna crumble. I'm getting out. I've tried. I gave you the chances. You were my crown. I respected you. I loved you, but I'm leaving out the side door. I know what's gonna happen. Bon Iver knows what's gonna happen, but he's gonna ride it out, or he's too scared to leave, or he believes in the love too strongly. I don't know his reasoning, but he's saying she can't. She's leaving out the side door. They're responding to the same situation in different ways. This is the bridge where they both sing. I love Taylor's bridges. They're always a thesis statement for the song. Her bridges are better than like the Brooklyn Bridge, the Golden Gate Bridge, any bridge. She's my favorite architect. Let's see what they say. They both sing. Some lines are just sung by Bon Iver. I'm gonna like do stuff here with my hand when it's Bon Iver, and then when it's Taylor, I'm gonna do stuff here. It's a very scientific process we have going. So step right out. There is no amount of crying I can do for you. All this time, we always walked a very thin line. You didn't even hear me out. You didn't even hear me out. You never give a warning sign. I gave so many signs. All this time, I never learned to read your mind. Never learned to read my mind. I couldn't turn things around. You never turned things around. 'Cause you never gave a warning sign. I gave so many signs. So many signs, so many signs. Taylor, you didn't even see the signs. This bridge is heartbreaking and beautiful and exquisite, and if you haven't listened to the song, what are you doing? Please go listen to it with headphones and just get in your feels with it. So step right out. There is no amount of crying I can do for you. Let's just leave this land. Step right out. All this time, we always walked a very thin line. They were always on a thin line, and if they just like walked a little weird, they were gonna fall off. And this line is on branches. Just stacking stuff up that has a very not stable foundation. They were aware of this. They knew that they were always walking on a thin line. They both say you didn't even hear me out, so they both feel like there was miscommunication and that their points were not being heard by the other person. Bon Iver says you never gave a warning sign, but Taylor says she gave so many signs. She also mentioned how she gave up to 100 chances. So again, there's different perspectives here in the relationship. Bon Iver feels more blindsided than Taylor does, but Taylor really seems like she tried everything she could to make this relationship work. There was a lack of understanding here. They weren't on the same wavelength, and they weren't viewing the problem in the same way. All this time, they both sing all this time. So during all this time, all this was going on, one truth and one reality here, another truth and another reality here, occurring simultaneously at the same time. Bon Iver says, I never learned to read your mind. Taylor says, never learned to read my mind. She was expecting him to understand her at this point. He never learned. He's aware that he wasn't able to learn to read her mind. It couldn't turn things around. Bon Iver. Taylor says you never turn things around. So it seems like a lot of the responsibility is being thrown towards Bon Iver by the use of the word I, that pronoun. He's taking ownership and responsibility of not being able to do these things. And the word you by Taylor is again giving the responsibility and the blame to Bon Iver. He just wasn't able to figure out what she needed, even though she feels like she communicated it to him, and even though she feels like she gave him a lot of chances, he wasn't able to deliver on his end or to understand what she needed. He says that she never gave a warning sign, but in her opinion, she gave multiple signs. The next line, so many signs, so many signs. This is very, very significant. They both sing this. Taylor singing this means that she gave him warning signs. That's the type of sign that she's referring to when she's singing. But he, I think, is talking about red flags. There's so many signs that this isn't working because you're not giving me any signs. Like sometimes not giving a sign is a sign that they don't care. Do you know what I mean? So I think Bon Iver had his own signs that the relationship is ending in a bad place. But when Taylor is saying signs here, she's referring to all of the signs that she gave him. She thought she was communicating effectively with Bon Iver, but Bon Iver literally didn't understand anything Taylor was saying. Let's continue. You didn't even see the signs. Again, to Bon Iver, the signs were just, I think he was seeing signs that the relationship was kind of doomed or like kind of approaching the end. They had to move out of the homeland, both of them did. But Taylor was just like, I don't know what else to give you. I gave you the chances, I gave you all the signs, you're just not getting it, you're not understanding me. Sometimes people can be in relationships together and love one another, but still not be able to fully understand one another. You might even try to communicate, but you're just existing on different wavelengths and frequencies, and your perspectives towards the world are just so different. This kind of reminds me of the love languages, how people express love differently. And sometimes when someone isn't expressing love to you in a way that you understand, you think that they don't love you. but they do. They just express it in a different way. That just is something that this reminds me of. It's really interesting to think about. The rest of the verses are repeated. I will just leave you guys with the last few lines of the song. Again, Bon Iver, Taylor. Because you never gave a warning sign. You never gave a warning sign. You never gave a warning sign. In the last part of the song, again, it's all repeated lyrics, so I'm not going to go through it very in depth, but there is a lot of repetition of the word signs, never gave any signs, never gave warning signs. And I say this in all my videos, repetition signifies significance. And the word signs here is a little bit ambiguous. It has more than one meaning. Again, to Bon Iver, the signs are signs that she doesn't care. She's not communicating. It's kind of like out of the blue for him that she's mad, but for Taylor, the signs are warning signs, and they're the signs that she gave him to try to convey to him that there are problems here. There was really a lack of communication within this homeland, and it's really sad because when you think of like a homeland and a home front and like a kingdom and a crown, you would like to think of unity and camaraderie and understanding within the walls or within the borders of that homeland, of that country. But it looks like inside of that country, there was miscommunication and they just weren't standing on the same frequency. Their foundation was crumbling and they weren't able to build it. I think Bon Iver was seeing that the foundation was crumbling and Taylor was trying to tell him why, but he wasn't understanding the way she was telling him why. Sometimes, like, you can look at an apple and people can describe it in different ways, and it's the same apple you're looking at, but you're not going to agree with the way everyone sees it. And there can be love between two people, but you have to be able to communicate and you have to be able to understand each other. You know, sometimes not one person is at fault. It's just if you don't understand one another, you just don't. It just sometimes is what it is. To sum up, this song is talking about a relationship that was at the beginning so strong and so united that it manifested as a metaphorical country and a kingdom, but the foundations were eventually broken. Both members of that homeland went into their own exile. Bon Iver just went alone out in the hall with all the love, and Taylor went into a new relationship, but she's in an exile of her own because she feels wounded. You know, his eyes added insult to her injury. She was injured. So she's in her own exile and perhaps an emotional exile, dealing with the hurt, dealing with not being understood by him, dealing with the fact that to her, he didn't understand her signs. She was trying. And, you know, sometimes when you try, you don't realize that they're not understanding you. You think that they're purposefully ignoring it. And that's hurtful. So this is just a tale of miscommunication, misunderstanding, and both people being hurt by it. That's all I have for this song. The sun is going down, but please let me know your thoughts below. Let's discuss this. I love this album and I love this song. Please subscribe for more lyric analysis videos from the Folklore album. If you have any requests of any song, any artist, leave them down below. Like this video if you enjoyed it. Subscribe if you haven't already. And thank you so much for watching. I really, really appreciate it. And I hope you have a great rest of your day or night. Bye.